Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now the new season, new meta is about to start, and it is going to be different format of 40 champions in a deck, 5 bans, which is kind of gonna complicate, well, change the way battlegrounds are played. But on the bright side, the meta is about as straightforward as you can get. You can literally use any champion you potentially or possibly want to use. So this is, I suspect, done by Kabam on purpose, because any champion you have ranked is not excluded because of this meta. In other words, yeah, you can just bring in anybody if you want. There's no, like, polka dot power requirement or anything of the sort. Obviously, there are advantages, and it is Mystic-centered meta, so that means that a lot of Mystic champions will be in the people's decks, which on the flip side means that if you do not have a lot of these ranked, opponent can ban all of your Mystic champions and just, rely on the OP Cosmic Defenders. There is a node finishing the hunt that benefits the attacker, so let's break down all the nodes first and then go into a bit deeper detail. Once per fight, when the defender drops below 60% health, #Saga attackers get an indefinite 35% power efficiency passive, activating a special attack while this power efficiency is active, grants the attacker indefinite 10% fury and prowess passives. The effects of this node are unaffected by ability accuracy reduction, which effectively kind of means when, again, you have got your fight well underway, champions that do have like level 2, level 1 rotations, or 2 level 1s, level 2 rotation, can finish out the fights quicker, but it does not impact your effectively optionality of which fights you can do and which you can't do. So then we have Arcane Zeal, and that is the basic Mystic node where Mystic champions gain 70% Fury passive for 15 seconds whenever they feel a bar of power. And then if you do nullify a buff or opponents fails to activate one of those buffs, whilst those temporary passive furies are active, they become permanent. Max stacks 5. And we have Combat Deja Vu Intensify, which means any champion can gain buffs. It's a Combat Deja Vu node. So, first things first, before anything else, we need to talk about Ronan. Obviously, Ronan will work as a 6-star. He's going to work better in the Gladiator Circuit than in Victory Track, but he is usable in Victory Track as well to infinitely stun lock. That's kind of like the first thing to point out before we go any deeper. So yeah, you can stun lock anybody that, you can fight with Ronan. That said, these are all the #Saga champions, and of these, we probably do want to highlight some champions that generally would not be good for BGs, but maybe would work for, like, J. Jonah Jameson, for instance. He is potentially a better option now because of, extra special spam to finish up the fights, but I don't know how well that will work out. M'Baku. Kushal is an absolute monster. She was going to be without that extra Saga boost. Halcon doesn't really benefit from it too much. Absman benefits from it to a significant degree. Doctor Strange does as well. A bit too much, to be honest, in some instances. And obviously Hyperion also can benefit from this quite well as Cassandra Nova. And yeah, those are the main ones, really. Right, so let's move on class by class now. And again, this is going to be kind of like a class roulette, because no champions are bad. There's not a single node that hinders how good a champion is offensively. That also means that no defenders are going to be exclusively good for everything. There's not going to be a single champion that's going to be like always going to have your back on defense, or is going to be very, very limited in the counters. But now, since there are 5 bans, an opponent gets to ban 5 champions, you will often see situations where champions that do kind of require more specific counters become, more meaningful, because again, champions like Domino, champions like Serpent potentially, or Thing, if opponent does not have a counter for that, you get the win, right? It kind of makes it also a bit more of an RNG play, but this time around, more than previously, you kind of have to think more about the strategy generally that you're going to be going on with, which classes to bolster more, which class defenders to rely on more, and then obviously kind of get rid of the corresponding attackers that clear them out. But obviously, defenders like Thing, for instance, Spider-Woman's also kind of ironically going to be making a bit of a comeback, primarily due to the node where If she gets her buffs nullified, then she inflicts power stings on the opponent. When a buff on Spider-Woman is nullified, inflict 2 instant shocks. So again, any nullification mystics. So with champions like Spider-Woman, you might purposely want to leave opponents with their mystics, knowing they can't really go and try and nullify her. But she's going to be viable, obviously, a dual-purpose champion. Champions like Rhino can have potentially significant enough impact, especially if you do choose to kind of like remediate opponents' skill class a bit and get rid of some of the most common counters there. Because again, there isn't like a huge ton of champions that would just randomly nuke him. On the flip side, that also means that in skill class, Crossbones is fully unleashed. There's absolutely nothing kind of like stopping or inhibiting him from, being the best version of himself. Champions like Yelena, that does have like a fairly hard cap, because this is by no means going to be a slow meta. It's going to be a fairly nukey meta. So champions like Yelena also become a lot more dangerous, because if he does get any intensify buffs on, chip damage from Yelena gets bigger, and there's no real way to completely, very quickly nuke her. So again, you can kind of like choose to go in more, for instance, for skill defenders, and then try and get rid of opponents' mutants, and that is a viable strategy. Mr. Sinister, again, back to being perfectly usable, going to be realistically a decent, versatile dual-purpose champion, so he definitely deserves a shout. Domino, again, with the increased size and deck size, and your increased ability of eliminating domino counters, she once again potentially can become a more effective defender. Same with Captain Britain, because in this meta there are, there's going to be like 3-4 champions that the opponent can use potentially to counter her well. So if you get rid of those, you can maybe choose to focus on the mutant defenders and get rid of opponents' techs largely, leaving the mystics to, run across and nuke everything else aside from these kind of like specific designated defenders. Thanos, and obviously again this will go with the strategy, but cosmic attackers will still be required. So Carolina Dean, Thanos, and Hyperion would be a good examples of cosmic champions that are still absolutely worth running, in my opinion, because they do have the offensive presence, and in case of Thanos, also still defensive presence, and several of the mystics still can't run through Thanos like most other cosmic defenders because of his protections, and that is tremendously useful as well. So Thanos is definitely somebody you should be looking at. In tech class, again, tech class is again completely free. And so you do want your Starkey in, you do want your Solvark, again, as primarily a defender, but also a counter to some of the potential mutants. Shocker is going to be doing a good job as a stressful situation defender. Obviously, the rest of the tech class, there's going to be a plethora that I can use. You can use Fam, you can use Sentinel, you can use Nimrod. Nimrod, I don't know if I would necessarily recommend because of his buffs and mystics running around, but we'll keep it there. And that leaves us to the Mystic class. Mystic class is heavily boosted, and the recommendation is obviously to run, at least 10 Mystic champions for most people, because of the extra buffs. All of the Mystics will be incredibly dangerous. And also, Mystics are very well versed offensive class. They have, that is the strength of the Mystic class. They haven't had that many great defenders in recent years, but they have had very viable, great attackers. Doctor Strange, with the extra buffs and the nodes and all the benefits, he's an absolute menace offensively. Even 6 stars worth running. Absman will function just great as well, and is something to be, worried of. America Chavez works well. Why not? Juggy is an absolute nuke that can run through so many champs now. Then you have Nico Minoru, obviously, again, extra poisons, extra power, an absolute menace. And we have Kushala. Kushala is the most ridiculous champion in this meta, and is basically like an auto ban, at least to me. Wolf works incredibly well with all the extra buffs that we have an opponent, and they have timers, so they do expire, plus the furies on him whenever he fills bar's power. You can just kind of go in a level 2 spam mode. It's quite brutal, to be honest, and yeah, he does a very good job. Pavitr obviously works well, ramps up faster because opponents get more buffs. Chatra, absolutely, again, opponent's buffs expire super quick, ramps up better, and manages. Even a 6-star Hood is capable of doing some ridiculous fights in this meta. I actually still need to rank up my 6-star Hood for this. But yeah, most of the Mystic class, it's basically you want at least like 12 champions, I'd say. 10 to 12 champions from the Mystic class is what you want to account for in your deck, I think. Again, unless you're going with like some very different specific strategic deck building. Rintra is kind of worth running as well, because obviously offensively he's better, and still, you know, a defensive stopper potentially too. Besides that, I've seen White Tiger do some very, very good stuff. I have seen Isophene actually kind of shine in this meta. Obviously, Kindred's always an option for a deck, and should still be one here. But yeah, you know, still we have champs like Longshot. Longshot would be very good too. The dual purpose champ to a degree, Mojo. So you really kind of want to revidate your Mystic class and shove them in, because many of them turn absolutely ridiculous. Especially when we look at the Gladiator Circuit meta, that will add extra buffs with escalating Pierce. And that's going to fuel them even further, as well as Ronin, obviously. Alright, that's it for this video. I am going to catch you guys soon. Bye-bye. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the next